and just kind of give you a flavor of the types of individuals who come to the center on a routine basis. And also, when we take a look at the volume, in the last 5 years, actually 4 years, not counting COVID, our program attendance has quadrupled. So when we take a look at family activity night, exercise classes, there's a new low impact one in the evenings now, bunco, and 20 other card games, I think. But that has gone exponential, and our family activity night is really taking off. So, and in the fall, of course, our cooking classes start up again. So we've been very fortunate. A little update for you. A lot of great board members. There are 15 of us, lead, guide, and direct. And one of your folks here today might know that the president is Kelly Beadle. We have, I call it professionalizing and expanding our efforts across the board. So I'm a board member, and I've only been there a little over a year, but I've been, like I said, just totally impressed with their IT knowledge, with their, like I said, kind of financial accountability. Henry's on the board as well, so if I say anything wrong, I expect him to raise his hand and go, time out. So he's my check on that. But we have been very fortunate, the county, we were able to get $88,600 from some COVID relief money. We got an additional $15,000 from the San Antonio Area Foundation, COVID. So we ended up doing 10 projects. Actually, about 4 or 5 of those were reimbursement, for expenditures that we did, during COVID or shortly thereafter that were had to give. But in addition to that, I'll pass around a couple little sometimes pictures tell the story much better, that talks about the things that have happened physically there at the community center, which is where we'd like to have a partnership with you guys fit in. When you do a lot of upgrades and, how do we say, major improvements, then we look at the first thing you see. We've got that huge electronic sign out front. And we have just, kind of updated those capabilities. So you look up at the sign, you pull in the gate, and you go, what is that? And so many of you probably didn't even notice it, hopefully did not notice it. Do you know what's under that sign?
Rosemary.
The hugest rosemary bush.
Is it rosemary? I call it juniper ugly.
Yeah,
straggly.
Linnea said that is probably hundreds of years old.
Yeah. Well,
Yes, she said, do not cut that down. Do not cut it down.
well, we have to take
we have
it
to
out.
figure it.
Yeah.
We have
So
to figure
that's
it.
what we're looking for, advice and assistance, in that arena. And because I've, talked to Jerry about this a bit, and she is the treasurer, she is minding your funds. So
And
she
she
has
is.
identified that, sweat equity, knowledge, advice, technical assistance, recommendations, you guys, great in providing all of that, but don't have any wild expectations about the garden club, paying for this, right? Did I get that correct? So she represented you very well, in that aspect. But the thing is, we partner with a lot of folks, whether it's Hill Country Samaritans for a back to school bash, whether it is providing, kitchen and facility for St. Victor's, sometimes for the Methodist Church, for the library, right? Where do they do their fundraiser? They do it at the community center. So we want to make sure, because this is a service we provide for the entire community. And that community includes Medina County, it includes Bexar County, based on where we're geographically located, as well as Bandera. So from that perspective, I wanted to keep this awfully short. So I do have some, obviously, business cards to go there. In case you have ideas or text or however you communicate, we want to make sure that we're in touch. So first off, of course, a little background's in order. And I thank you for filling in that blank. We have really little knowledge about what that thing was, where it came from, how old it was, but we were starting to notice some cracks in our stonework and the mortar in the container that's out there. And I know there's already been some ideas that Jerry's exchanged with our facility manager regarding maybe how to improve that container, ledges, et cetera. So the doesn't just necessarily, we're looking for ideas maybe for what goes in the container, but also maybe improving, the stonework or some additional concrete to reinforce that if necessary all the way around it. So one of the things, we have a maintenance committee. That maintenance committee is responsible for, you know, the grounds as well as all of the facility. So we have a little over 4 acres to maintain. And a little tidbit, and why this is also very important to the entire community, our facility was just appraised. Anybody love the appraisal district, right? So our facility is now worth over $970,000, almost $1 million that our board is responsible for. So we are obligated also to make it the best it can possibly be. So another piece of background, we appreciate, like I said, at least Jerry's initial interest, and I think she's had some conversations with some, if not all of you. And, but this timeline, we're very open on the timeline. If that plant has been there 100 years, we're okay. We've got some time.
Well, no, but we may be able to just work around that.
Yeah.
Right. Don't destroy it all, but, you
Yeah.
know, it probably needs pruning up.
Yeah, well, and our biggest deal is we don't want it to kind of crack up the whole container as the roots find a home or they run into the other rocks,
Well, Linnea will be
et cetera.
back, I think, next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah,
If she went, I don't know if she went, given
I
the
don't know.
fires
I
on
don't think
Maui.
she went.
I don't think she went either,
Yeah.
so,
but if there's some
Anyway.
input there, that'd be great. So we're not taking any action right away. We have this thing called a Cajun Fest on September 23rd.
We ain't gonna get
that
it
we
done
are,
before
like,
then.
Mega focused on. So our timeline wise, definitely after that.
yeah.
And the other thing too is, when we take a look at some of the challenges there, obviously, we've got some other things. There's some lights that are actually still hanging there that, they don't even operate anymore. Since we put up the new sign, well, we just kind of, we'll take off the old stuff. So we're doing some cleanup above the container as well. And in addition to that, we don't have an address. How many people have ended up almost, well, on the lake shore, not in the lake, but on the lake shore, because they go right past the community center? The GPSs are not, you know.
Yeah, we
all-
talked about that.
All wonderful and all the same, so. we may be
Incorporating the
doing-
address into whatever we
may be
design.
doing some things, cause there is some metal structure there that we could utilize. So we're looking at that as part of the maintenance committee. I don't think it'll address any sort of plans you might have height-wise coming out of the container. But just so you know, I mean, there's other things that, we'll make sure it's painted and, you know, we maintain that on a routine basis. So in addition to that, you know, financially, that's why the maintenance committee is there. So when we take a look at, you know, where we are, we just went through, obviously you guys may have done it too, execution against budget in those particular terms. And so if we have additional funds, you know, then maybe this is something that could start. But planting season-wise, it depends on maybe what your recommendations are if you decide to dive into this, to kind of say, no. You should plant this particular one, here's our strongest recommendation of 3 options maybe, and you ought to plant this in the spring. Right. You know, that'll come to the maintenance committee and the board, and, you know, maybe we'll be off to the races next spring. So that's what I mean by timeline, is very, very flexible. And the other thing too is, this is our budget time. So about September, October, we'll be finalizing our budget for next year. So any recommendations you have prior to then, before the end of the year, options-wise would be most helpful. But, you know, we can always kind of put a placeholder in there to kind of say, well, we'll stick $1,000 in there and see where it goes. You know, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the trajectory. Even if we don't get anything started, or you guys decide not to participate, whatever your decisions are, then we'll make sure there's a little chunk of change in there to make sure we at least have a starting point. Okay. And in addition, when you take a look at recommendations on the handout, what I've also put here is items that we'd like to see. Whoops, I'm going to give you mine. That's ugly. Some other items that are under. Whoops, that was not good. Nope, I think I'm missing Henry. I think somebody needs one more over here if I missed it right. Are we good? Oh, you don't have to share him.
They share everything else.
All right. So on the very bottom where it talks about recommendations, not the technical expert. So there may be a lot of other questions, a lot of other things that go into the recommendation that we don't have the skill set to do. So this is just a starting point. That's all this is. the conversation. You guys obviously have to make decisions and vote, and you've got priorities here at the library and other places, I'm sure, tapping on your door. Any questions of me?
I just have one really quick question. I wanna make sure that, does Willie attend the maintenance?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the reason is he's the one, that when I was chatting with him,
Mhm.
that was really pushing for somehow, some way that we get the address numbers
Yes.
on something.
He's brought that up through, before this project, so it's
Okay.
on our maintenance committee
Okay.
list.
Okay, great. I just wanna make
With,
sure that was
with
already.
lights is
With
what I
lights,
was,
yeah, well,
with
everybody's all
lights.
excited about that. We're very.
Well, and as you notice, like I said, on the outside of the building, on the pavilion, there are a lot more security lights there,
Yes.
all throughout the complex for evening events. We have a lot of folks come in there, of course, what is it, it's fall, so even if you go into exercise class at 7, you come out to your car, we wanna make sure that, you know, by 8:30, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, that was kind of a rapid fire thing, so I
Okay.
wanna appreciate your lunch hour.
All right, so we will, I think what we can do now is, if we want to, Jerry, I don't know if you want to make a motion that we approve moving forward with this
Yeah,
and have
well,
people approve
We
it.
had actually done it before,